You're listening to the AdCast with your host, Elliott.
Man, I changed the scenery up a little bit today. And I have a guest on the line today, man. We're going to dig into some stuff. Today, I have my man, Mr. Adam Katz, on the line with me today from the company Sightly. And we're going to talk about some things that are going to blow people's minds. We're going to talk about mentality. We're going to talk about brand mentality, how it came from Mamba mentality. We're going to dive in today, man. So, Adam, I'm jacked up, man. I'm jacked up to talk to you. We talked right beforehand. You were telling me, about your family, where you are on the East Coast and everything else. But I want to tell our guests and our viewers just a little bit about Sightly. And then I want you to be able to introduce yourself if that's cool with you, man. So Sightly is a leader in real-time marketing and intelligence driven through your brand's unique perspective, values, and positions. We're going to talk a lot about that. Guess what? Another thing, too, I forgot to tell you, Adam. You are episode number 70.
Wow.
You're supposed to say, holy shit. So you're episode number 70. So this is a big deal, man. So you got a big product we're going to talk about today. And I want us to dive into that. What's
the most unique sports 70 to you?
Was it probably Jordan scoring 70 or Kobe scoring 70? Because I see a Kobe Bryant jersey right behind you, and we'll talk about that too.
Well, Kobe dropped 81, and Jordan's got the 69. But I would say like those Mark McGuire years where the 70 runs were.
When him and Sammy Sosa were going back and forth. Yeah. Oh my God.
That's like the most unique 70.
Yeah.
Be my guess. And based on your shirt, you want to always shoot under a 70.
Of course. Oh, well, one thing I want to say, Adam, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with your resume, and this is no BS, man, because, looking at how you started your career, and you can just see that progression from everywhere you've been. It seems like, hey, this guy's learning here. You spent a few years there, and then it just seems like you just elevate. You continue to elevate. So today, my guess, he's just an industry marketing veteran, and I really, really mean that. Check out his credentials. The guy is the truth. We're going to dive into that today. And I've talked about you enough. So, Adam, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone out there, to the AdCast viewers and listeners, man.
Yeah, it's hard. It's always hard to introduce yourself, right? Because I always say you want someone else to give you the Hall of Fame speech, not yourself. So
right.
That's my thinking. But, just simply, I'm a New Yorker from Brooklyn. You feel that authenticity and my vibe just based on those two qualities growing up. I'm heavily driven by what my parents have taught me, especially my dad over the years. I'm a big sports fan, love competition, but also love multiple people's perspective on things. So I'm a believer in, if you have any logic behind what you're saying, I could appreciate it, whether I agree with it or not. So big fan of people, big fan of family, sports, competition, and things like that. In terms of my career growth, I appreciate what you said. It wasn't always easy. It was choppy along the way.
When is it easy, man?
Yeah, listen, I learned a lot in the stops that were harder. I've learned, different things along the way. But I think what I've always learned is team first. The people at your company and your team mean the most.
Mm-hmm.
If people on your team are a fan of yours, you're going to rise. I think the biggest mistake a lot of leaders make is they try to rise by their own credentials, not by what the team thinks of you.
Yeah.
So when you rise through the team, jealousy doesn't creep in. When you rise other ways, jealousy creeps in. People feel like I represent them would be a little bit of my thought within the Sightly family. But Sightly's been the greatest run of my career. I've been here for almost 8 years. The company's let me grow, learn, get engaged, get married, have a kid, go through things, so, I feel like I came into Sightly like a younger person, and now I've grown into who I am today. So it's been a lot of fun to be at one place to do a lot of those things.
Now,
So
you mentioned a couple things. You mentioned about being able to love logic and love and perspective, and a lot of that kind of goes into the company Sightly, about being able to use some logic, and then I want to be able to bring up some things about tentpole moments. I mean, who's using Sightly? Tell me who's using Sightly.
yeah, currently brands and agencies, right? So brand direct marketers and intelligence teams, and then also agencies are the
Hmm.
two biggest customers that we currently have. People utilize the platform for many reasons.
Hmm.
It's to set the stage for who you are.
Hmm.
So the platform starts out with what's called our brand mentality profile, where you can fill out your brand thought process in many unique ways. You can tell us, who your influences are, who your competitors are, what your thoughts are on issues, how you want to react when issues happen in the world, what your opinion is on content, what your opinion is on an outcome versus purpose. So we really allow somebody to humanize themselves in this profile by setting the stage for who they are. Because what
Hmm.
we've learned is in today's society, with how fast information moves,
Oh
how do you
gosh.
actually do something if you don't know your mentality? And you need to be able to understand your mentality as a marketer and a brand, because otherwise you can't take advantage of anything, because there's so many polarizing thoughts across anything today,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's an athlete's decision, whether it's a COVID decision, whether it's a DEI decision, whether it's a political decision, information just moves so fast that you have to be able to know who you are to take advantage of it if you want to, or to remove yourself from it. But you need to know that to do that. On top of that, to learn new audiences, new ways to go to market, new ways to look at information. What's the better way to do it than to be able to see what's going on in the world based on the way you think and the way you could have reacted? So I firmly believe that this is the marketing of the future.
Hmm.
I also think that real time marketing has been very hard for a long time because you don't have a platform to do it.
Yep.
People didn't want to have these tough conversations in a room. But I feel like over the last few years, we're starting to see more people within companies willing to talk about these things together, which I think is beautiful. And then on top of that, you actually can see an impact now.
Hmm.
And then the other big thing is, let's be real, you've been in the marketing world for a long time. Content and the ability to buy things had to be done up front. You don't
Yes.
have to do that anymore,
Yes.
right? Like you don't have to be stuck anymore. You have the ability to move in and out, the ability to change perspective on people, thought process, who they are. And I'm not mad at somebody if they change their opinion on a perspective, because you have new information. So the
Well,
profile allows you to change that perspective if you choose to as well.
no,
So like,
I think you set it up perfectly for people having those opinions. Like, let's just say, like, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today was kind of the tentpole moments, and kind of explaining that to people, like, before something goes viral, when it hit its peak, and then when it comes down, like what do you do with that? I mean, and tell me about how the software and how Sightly can actually be able to help people make decisions. Because right now, honestly, Adam, especially in today's day and age, there are things that people tend to stay away from. So, how do you know, like, I can comment on that, or it's safe for me to stay away from that? Let's talk about that tentpole moment and how Sightly can help with that.
yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it depends on how everyone has a very different definition of tentpole moment,
Hmm.
right? I think one of the frustrations we had as a company over the years is the inability for people to define moments,
Hmm.
because everything's a moment in today's society. Because when you think about it, let's just say you're a massive fan of an athlete. Is there ever a time an athlete's off nowadays on the internet? So everything could be a moment around anything, competitors, influencers, whatever it may be. So I think historically people pre-planned tentpole moments because the NCAA tournament, they wanted to be there, right? A great
Hmm.
example I give of this is, let's use sports just because we're talking about it. When Coach K retired last year, you don't think I'm not a big college basketball watcher avidly anymore, but I watch that, right? And that moment could have been as big as game 1 of the NCAA tournament. And all you had to do was be able to say that you wanted to pay attention to a viral sports moment. We would have picked up on that moment in real time, and we would have been able to connect it back to content for you.
Okay.
So all you had to tell me as a brand is you want to be around viral sports moments, and I would have done that for you. You can take it deeper if you want. Yep.
Wow, that sounds interesting now. It really sounds interesting. So like if I'm a brand, let's just say I'm just going to pull a brand out of the sky. If I am Nike,
Okay.
and I come to you and I say I want to be near a big sports moment. Tell me how Sightly kind of makes this happen, because we're going to talk about AI and everything else, and it seems like AI is something you just can't run from right now. It's happening, it's moving. So how would that work for a brand like a Nike, and can it work for other brands as well?
No worries. They would come into the platform. They would set the stage within our section around content that they want to surround sports. They would also set the stage for what kind of content they want to surround. They also would tell us that they, in our scenario section of our platform, that they want to be around a viral sports moment. And they would also tell us within the platform the types of influencers that they want to be around. We then have built what's called our anticipation software that would pick up on what's happening in the world based on what that brand thinks. So the most viral moment that day could be Coach K. We then connect it back to the answers in the profile and automatically populate the content and the audience that they can go after based on those decisions. So that's how we do it from a technology standpoint. The second piece is if you want to just have the intelligence, we can populate the intelligence. So think like social listening, all these things. What they do is they only can start with the intelligence. They can't layer your perspective or the action. So we can now layer the perspective and the action. And even if you don't take it, you can use that information over time to become a much better marketing brand, a much better positioned brand, and start to understand your audiences better. So that's how to like just think about a simple one. I'll give you another example. Like we were working with a great brand who put in our platform that they care about Lizzo, right? We picked up on a moment where she had done something on TikTok, and we leaned right into that moment. So it's all about connecting the right platform to the right moment, but you can't do that without knowing the decision tree of what a brand would want to do up front, because otherwise you miss the opportunity. And then the second side of it is being able to pull in data to populate what's going on in the world, right? We do a great job of figuring out what brands want to connect with if they don't know, right? If a brand comes to us and says, Nike knows themselves, right? But if a brand comes up to us and it's like, we don't really know who the right influencers are, who the right competitors are, we can go out and do that research for them, and we can help them populate the profile, and then that starts the engine. So the key is to be able to make those decisions and those understandings of yourself up front so you can actually react and be able to do what we do.
So at some point then it's going to continuously learn. Like you used Lizzo as an example. Let's just say, because I know I was in Florida recently, and I know Lizzo had like this partnership with a brand called Fabletics, right? So and if Lizzo is, she's got a new album, or she's doing a lot of TV shows, getting a lot of press, and if Fabletics, I'm just using them as an example, if they said, hey, we want to be wherever Lizzo is, so we want to attach ourselves to that brand. So your software can actually help people be able to do that.
Absolutely. And then not only that, when you think about it, Eric, there may be times where you don't want to be around Lizzo, even though that's the brand you want to be around. So I give this example a lot that, Nike has a specific athlete that they represent. And let's just say that one athlete during the rise of COVID didn't want to take the vaccine. They're now set with an interesting dynamic, right? Do they surround that athlete all the time, or they just block that one piece of that athlete? And we give that option too. So they can now look at something in a diverse way so that they don't have to, because you know what happens today. A lot of the time people think you are this one thing. I don't believe that. I think that we're all made up of what our experiences are, what we've seen, what we've been taught, but also what we read and also what we feel.
We are a melting pot of what we've been through, man.
Yeah. And I think most people think that's not the case today. They want you to be one thing.
Yeah.
So I really believe that you need to be able to break down things in very deep ways. So I'm not like, if let's just say LeBron does something that's not perfect, why does that mean LeBron's canceled? Just don't surround that one moment, around LeBron James. I think it's a critical piece for us to start to embrace that, growth of individuals and people, but also be able to separate those moments when they matter to you and when they don't, even within an individual, within somebody, because you brought up surrounding Lizzo at all times.
Yeah.
Maybe things that they don't want to surround with Lizzo, even though they love her as an influencer. So you need to be able to break that down as well.
Now, I've always been taught you stay away from politics and you stay away from religion, right? So, I've never heard of something like this. So now, how does something like that work? Because you with this, you have the ability to be able to go to either side.
Yeah, so you could
when should a brand just say, I got to stay away from this?
Those are brands' mentality is my point. They have to learn to think this way, not us teaching them. A lot of people ask us to teach them, and I'm okay with helping. But I think what brands need to figure out today is they do need to know who they are.
Right.
Because the truth is, otherwise they're going to put themselves in tough situations, or they're not going to have the right opportunity. So I'm just giving that example because, let's use any athlete, right? If an athlete's on a Fox News website or a CNN and they're talking about something that has nothing to do with sports, you could tell us you only want to surround an athlete on highlights around sports. Okay, that's up to you, right? Look at, I use LeBron a lot because he's so polarizing in the way he gets spoken about. His son just had one of the great dunks ever, and it's viral right now. Bronny James went to the left and threw it down with the right on top of someone, right? It's viral everywhere. But Colin, Eric, for example, that Skip Bayless is going to say something bad no matter what about it because he's like, your dad would have threw it down with the left versus the right, he said.
Right.
So you don't know that that's going to always be the case with Skip about LeBron, right? So people are who they are. They make the decisions that they make, and you can choose to surround things and not surround things based on the way those things are being discussed as well, which I think is super critical because you don't want to be in. We know today not everybody reads and does what we're discussing. So people are easily influenced, right?
Yes, they are.
So you need to make sure that you're giving brands the ability to know how easily influenced people are and to protect them in those scenarios, but also give them the opportunity. So I think it's I don't know. You could tell I love talking about this. This is.
No, I'm interested. I want to go to something you said almost 2 months ago. You said brands should dig deep and understand what they stand for and what they don't. Understanding their political leanings and owning them helps them know if and when and where their team should jump into moments that arise every day. But you have to be consistent when it comes to positions and values. You can't be uber conscious one day and it fits the trending news and then forget about it the next day. People notice and will call it out. So how does that work in this day and age of, I don't like what this guy said 15 years ago, I want to cancel them?
Yeah, well, I think that's what my point is, why you see the guy behind me. Kobe Bryant, would he be where he got to in today's society? Think about that when you, Eric, just think about that in a different light. Would Kobe have been able to recover in our current climate? I don't know.
Wow.
I don't think so. So I think a lot of the time we need to look at some of the amazing people and leaders that, we ended up respecting, because growth is a big piece of anything, right? But I think on the flip side, our consumer today just wants consistency, right? I think if you're consistent and authentic, you can do you can make mistakes because people appreciate who you are.
Yeah.
right? I think the core problem is when you're always flip-flopping on
Right.
your thought, on your belief. Now, if you change your belief, that's okay. But you need to be able to tell people, this is what happened. I was watching the other night. I don't know if you ever pay attention to the saga of A-Rod Jeter throughout their career. And I'm a New York Met fan, but I've been leaning into watching this Jeter documentary that just came out about his career. And the other night they had him talk to A-Rod on TV, and they never had the best of relationships over the years. But you hear A-Rod when he's talking about it now, able to say he knows he was wrong. And think about A-Rod's everywhere. So we let A-Rod recover. Why is that? Because
Wow.
I think he was able to admit to the faults. He was able to make a change, and he was able to be authentic about it. Whereas you see a lot of people fight what they did or how they did it instead of just, being able to be comfortable with it. So the reason I say that a lot is because I do believe that brands can be their authentic selves. They can change opinions, but they can be real about it, and they can tell those stories into the market. And I think consumers today really pay attention to it. I think
Who's it perfect for? Who's Sightly perfect for?
everybody, because you don't have to. We're talking about the real controversial stuff, right?
Yeah.
You can take it all the way back and talk about nothing.
Yeah, but honestly, like the controversial things are the things that actually take up the headlines, is what they do.
Yeah, you 100% agree. But I'm saying you could take it all the way back and just say, I want to surround just NBA highlights for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do that, right? So I think we're good for everybody. I know that's a funny answer because, people want to hear, send me a case study, send me the game.
Yeah.
A case study is my favorite.
Let me see what you've done before, right?
It's my favorite phenomenon in marketing. But the truth of the matter is we could help anyone that cares about, their competitors, influencers, their brand, their perception, their authenticity, their go-to-market strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We can help. Now, do I think brands that can move more nimble will appreciate us more? I do. I think that's I'm giving an appreciation comment, not who we're actually, good for. I think you would appreciate us more if you're willing to be a real-time marketer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of brands that we talk to don't think they're equipped for it, or don't think that they are open to it, right? But I think if you're open to the fact that real-time marketing exists, and my favorite part about it is when people say they're comfortable with just intelligence in real time, but they're not comfortable then with the marketing side of it. I'm like, so you're saying you're just sitting on data and not doing anything with it? Like, how does that, why do that?
Right.
I feel like you can connect the two. So it's a very hard question, Eric. Seriously, I appreciate the question. It's hard to answer because I don't want to tell people that they don't know themselves and it's wrong, because it takes time to get to that point too. But I do think over the next 10, 15 years, you won't see anybody say that our platform is not for them. I really will.
I'm so interested in it because I feel like AI is just going to evolve to the point where it's going to be part of our lives, like Siri or Alexa. I really feel that way. And how do you? I have an Alexa now. I had a Siri, I had an Alexa, and I like Alexa more. That's just me. That's just me. I like it more. I think it's more functional for me. And I think my next question for you is this almost like the Alexa for marketing for people?
Sure.
Because, like you remember when programmatic came out and everyone was all nervous because it was like, no, we got to buy ads a certain way. And it was, and all we heard about was RTB, real-time bidding. And now we're hearing about RTM, real-time marketing. So, fully explain what real-time marketing is. Because there's someone that doesn't know, okay, what is real-time marketing? What are they talking about?
The ability to be able to get out into the market with your brand from an outcome standpoint at the speed of today's information. That is to me what real-time marketing is. Everyone has their own different definitions of it, but that's how I would define it. Because is a brand prepared when something happens to make a move about it from a paid standpoint or from a learning standpoint? That's the simplest way to think about it. So if something happens today, are you prepared? Are you prepared to make moves around that information? That is real-time marketing. The challenge is going to be, can you think about creative? Can you also think about copy? Can you also think about messaging? Can you also think about outcome? Can those marketers sell the leaders at their company to actually give them budget to think this way?
And that's why you said earlier, like the nimble people will win.
Yes.
Because they can do things a little quicker versus turning the yacht around in 2 minutes.
It's why I always like think in my personal life to not put myself in too much of a risk about too much. Then you can't get out of it. Once you're in that lifestyle, you always want to keep the lifestyle. So yeah. From my standpoint, you gotta think about before you get into the lifestyle, because then you're in it, right? So I think that's the problem with a lot of the brands. They think who they are. They don't want to be willing to think differently. But we have 100 plus customers that would disagree with that think about their values every day, care about their brand, care about who they are, and are willing to go on that journey. So I think maybe I'm too optimistic, but I do think that no one won't think this way soon, just like you're talking about programmatic and RTB. You know what happens? Things start, people fight it, right? Because they don't like change.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, somebody in each organization believes in something differently than others, and they say, let me take on that test, or let me take on that project. And it's the leaders who let those people do that stay in the leadership role. It's the people who fight it that person comes and takes that role later.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you got to be, as a leader, you got to let people prove it, but also let people go do it. Right? If you have an optimistic person in your organization who thinks they could drive real-time marketing, why would you stop it? Right? So that's the way I think about it.
Well, I just think things are just happening too fast. They're happening too fast for a human to be able to keep up with it. And that's where, like I've had conversations with others, and they're talking about AI, and some of the more traditional marketers who are just becoming comfortable with digital marketing, they're almost afraid of it because they feel like, oh, it's going to put me out of a job. But the way I see it is, okay, this is going to be the future. This is how brands are going to market, because that person's not going to get up at 3:00 in the morning to make a post or push an ad, and so you talked earlier about, people saying, show me the case study. But I mean, give me like a success story of when you've seen site leads just made a difference in a campaign and for a brand.
I mean, literally every second of every day. So I think that's my real answer to your question. I'm going to give you an exact moment for you, just so the audience can hear that. But ultimately, it's all day, right? So it doesn't stop, and there's always something happening. So for me, it's all the time. But in terms of just examples, right? I gave you a great example earlier with Lizzo. I always give this example because it's really easy to understand, even though it's a year or two old, but I think it's like the perfect thought process. When Tiger got in his car accident, what was your first reaction?
I don't know if I want to say it because my kids might be listening.
That's the point.
Right?
So the starting reaction was, what just happened?
Yep.
Then the second reaction was, will he ever golf again? Will he ever walk?
Exactly.
But then the third reaction was the Genesis car saved his life. So now if you're a competitor of that Genesis car, do you want them to be the only one talking about how safe they are? The biggest moment about a car. So now if I'm any other auto brand, I'm inserting myself into that message. But I'm staying out of that message on that first point, the second point. So time, it's an amazing example of the platform, right? Things change in messages, and you need to know when you got to also be in there, because you can't let the Genesis own that whole situation. And they were, right? When you go back and look, Google Genesis car saved Tiger's life. It wasn't for the way that car was built. If it wasn't for, and they took a huge advantage of that, right? And why was he in the Genesis car too? Because it was the Genesis tournament going on.
Wow.
Right. So I'm just telling you, there's big moments all the time that you can't let your competitor own by itself, but then you also have to be able to keep up with the moment.
There's always a struggle though between brands where it's like, do we do this to be profitable or do we stay who we are? So does Sightly actually help you to remain authentic? And I think in doing some research in it, it was like, oh, okay, this can tell you if you're being authentic or not. I'm like, how can something tell me if I'm being authentic? How?
Because I know you answered your mentality in the profile. You gave me the answers, right? So when you think about it, when you get to know someone, Eric, let's just say you have a friend for a lot of years. My assumption is you have a lot of friends from when you were a kid, based on your profile.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Why do you think you've kept them over time? Because you were able to grow around them. You guys grew together. And through all those moments, you guys learned what your mentalities were, right? You knew, I show up to the golf course with one friend. He wants to play, a match from the get-go. I got another friend who wants whether we say it out loud or not, we know innately about our own mentality and the people that we're around. And what you learn is when you get to know somebody, you vibe so much more because you understand each other. And, my belief is that you're able to do that. So thinking about your question of profit versus,
authenticity. Yep.
That's who you are. I can't tell you that. I can help you judge it based on what you tell me and the data that comes out of it, right? Because I have metrics that can say, is sentiment changing his market? Is authenticity getting better? Sure. But in the end, that comes down to you, right? I can't tell somebody that because they put out an initiative to help the community and they didn't end up with 3 sales that they're going to be comfortable with that. That's ultimately a brand's decision. And I think one of the challenges that everyone doesn't understand is I don't think we know yet if all the purpose-driven marketing is going to drive ROI all the time, right? There's going to be times where it does. There's going to be times when it doesn't.
Yep.
But I think if you know that brand, whatever they do consistently is going to help them in the end be authentic, which does drive ROI. And I think so. My point I'm making is we're working with brands to help them get to a place where they're comfortable to be themselves and that they feel good about it. I can't tell a brand that says to me they want to sell the most credit cards in the world. And then I put them around the most diverse thing that they say they want to be around and they don't get ROI and now they're upset. That's on them. They need to understand what they're trying to drive. Like, for example, I do a lot for the breast cancer walk. Do I get anything out of it in my life for ROI? No, but you know what I get? Fulfillment. The people that are there look at me and say, thank you, right? And what does that do in the future when I'm around those people who now know me?
Yeah.
I get something later, right?
That's greater than any dollar you could earn.
Yeah. But you get something later because of it. Think about all the people that are there that are like, oh, this, it's a good person when I talk to them about things. So I think brands need to embrace the fact that consumers care about them being good people, right? Like, so if they prove they're good people and you could choose between 2 brands to buy a product, what would you do? Right. So I think it's inevitably over time that these things develop because yes, we're trying to surround moments, but that doesn't mean every moment's going to drive the ROI you want. But I think if you compile them and you stay consistent over time, inevitably you're going to be more successful. That's all.
That's strong. You talked about the ROI and being in that race. So, we have a team member here. His name's Andrew, And one thing he said one day when we were meeting, I'll never forget this. He said, "What's the ROI of hugging your mother?" And he had heard that from, someone who had worked at another place that he worked out in Vegas. And he, when he said that, I mean, it really just made you think, truly there are just some things that you just can't think about an ROI on, you just can't. So now you talked about people actually knowing who they are, and their brand profiles and everything else when they come to you. So now, does this help people to kind of avoid making the gut decisions? Because hopefully you got some data to be able to support what you did, what you did, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So we have historical data that can help, but let's be real, that's getting better every day.
Yeah.
Right? This is a new revolution, so I think we're years away from knowing if every data is perfect, which is why we try to lean into the outcome with the profile that you need today.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
So like if somebody says to me, I need reach, I need lower funnel, we try to drive that outcome first so that your risk is limited to think this way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So over time, I think we're going to prove more and more and more new metrics, new thought process, and we have data. But let's be real, people want to see it in action for themselves, no matter what data you have. Right? So one of the big things for us is to solve the challenge they're looking at today.
Yeah, they got to see it, touch it, feel it kind of thing.
Right? If somebody says to me, I want reach, but I want to block the whole entire universe, I'm like, okay. Somebody says to me they want to care about a movement, but they want to block every word that's in the movement. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, there's just things that can't happen to get something done too. So yes, we have historical data. We're getting better and better at packaging it and showing it to people.
Mm-hmm.
We know that people care about that, but we also know that people care about what they care about right now. So we have to think about that. And then the last piece is people are going to learn over time. So that's a question that keeps me up thinking about it all the time, right? How do you continue to prove to people something? And what's been a lot of fun? Most of the customers have the ideas more than we do, right?
Yeah. They're going to be the ones to help you be able to grow. You think of a platform like Facebook. I mean, it's the users themselves. I mean, who are the hamsters on the wheel that are teaching you and telling you what to do next.
Yeah, I don't want to put myself in the same camp as that. With
you know what I mean. You know exactly what I mean, Adam.
with the other day, I speak and I got an ad for cookies that I was talking about. But the point is, when you think about a lot of I completely agree with you, though, right? You have people using the platform internally and externally, and we're lucky that those customers are on the journey, right? But I was saying it in even a different way. When you get on the phone with today's marketers, this is fun for them too.
Yeah.
Right? Because people enjoy talking about all this today, right? You brought up a point that we were brought up not to talk about certain things.
Yep.
I actually think we should be able to talk about anything.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think two people should be able to have a conversation, but from a marketing standpoint, you're always told stay away from that end or stay away from that end because I want to be right in the middle. I want to be right in the middle.
Think about this, right? When look who just won the ESPY award for courage. Vitaly Klitschko from Ukraine, a former boxer who's now a Ukraine governor, basically, in a city, and or mayor, whatever he is, and he just won an award for what he's done for his people with courage, right?
Yeah,
and
I remember seeing him actually broadcasting him and his brother.
Why would zero brands be scared to be around Vitaly Klitschko now? I understand that there's some negative things, but think about so many great things about it, what he just endured and what he's showing to people, right? This is a person that could have retired financially, just went, home and lived.
Yeah.
And is in the public eye, looking out for his people on the streets with them. Like, what does that teach you in the world? And any brand that embraces that should be inspired by that.
So now,
that's how I think about it.
with you being like you're the chief revenue officer for Sightly. Now, when a brand approaches you, and like you said, one of the most important things is them telling you, knowing who they are, right? So knowing who they are, I mean, are they doing this process by themselves? Are you guys helping them? Is there someone assigned to them? What does that look like for, let's just say, if a brand approaches you today? Could you say any brand can actually do it, but if someone came to you, what is that process like? Are they being handheld? Tell me what that's like.
It's still the impossible answer, because every situation's unique, right? There's times where brands are like, we have data from all these audience providers already. We have data from all of these different platforms, surveys, and we know what we want to put here. Then there's a second brand that may say, can you help find out for us? There could be a third brand that says, I don't know anything at all, and I want to start basic and just buy content packages on the internet.
Wow.
Right? So every situation is unique, Eric. I don't know. I'm going to send you after after this, I could send you our best practices as of right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah. And whenever we put it online, we can actually put those inside of some of the show notes, anything that we can have public.
But a lot of what we put in the best practices at this point is like, don't overthink it. Embrace that you could believe in what you believe and that it could work, right? Like, for me, looking at your shirt, right? The live golf scenario. Think about the insanity that's created, right?
Yeah.
If, how many ways could you look at that scenario? You could look at it through, you could slice and dice that, and financially, people, this, Yep. If you're advertising around golf right now, how hard must your life be? And so if you don't know who you are,
right,
what are you doing right now? And I think ultimately that's an example of you just going after golf content right now. What are you surrounding? I mean, golf's never been spoken about this much, right? So
that's true. That is true.
When was the last time you saw non-golf fans talking about golf besides just Tiger Woods? Tiger Woods always lifted the needle. And today, I don't know if you saw, but on ESPN, he's now speaking to the tour to rally all them to stay on the tour. So he's like becoming
he's a cheerleader now.
He's become the ambassador. Could you ever imagine Tiger doing that when he was in his days of like staring down everyone and winning every tournament? He's now giving back to the place that brought him up, right? So does that change your opinion on him now? There's so much going on that I'm not saying it's going to be easy to solve all the challenges and that you're going to be able to figure out every single thing all the time. I think one of the mistakes a lot of marketers ask us is, do you follow everything?
Wow.
Like the answer is no, but if you start to think in this type of realm, how much more fun could you actually have as a marketer? How much more impact could you make? And I use the live golf scenario just because, think about it. Now you have Tucker Carlson interviewing Bryson DeChambeau, right? How unique is that? Then you have Bryson DeChambeau talking about the fact that he's building new things in Dallas. So now I see people like, he's on Tucker, I don't like him. And then 5 minutes later, like, I like what he said. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, I like this guy because he at least said that it's about money. And then I hate this guy because you got to, if you don't know who you are and you're surrounding golf right now, what kind of mess are you in? Right. So I think I just have fun thinking about this stuff as much as, yes, it's serious stuff, but have fun with it. Like think about how much fun you could have with the technology, the data, the thought process, the learnings. And
tell me this though. I'm so fascinated by all this, man. You have natural language processing. You have AI. I mean, tell me how how the brand mentality, and I want to, before we get off this call, I want to remember to have you introduce exactly where that came from, like how it's so state of the art, and also just how it just continues to evolve. I mean, as brands grow, and especially now. I mean, we talked about people and things moving so fast. You got the metaverse now. I mean, the metaverse. I mean, how does all of this play into things? How does it all play into things? How does Sightly play in all of
What are you doing to me?
it?
I don't.
I'm intrigued, man.
Your,
I'm
your,
intrigued.
your last couple of questions, as you see, are not stumping me in terms of worries. It's more
Right,
getting you now, Eric, just like everyone else, to go, why would I be worried about any of that? Because what happens
right,
is,
right.
if I don't have a question in my profile and something goes viral, we're going to add a question into the profile about it.
Yeah.
I could keep up with anything, right?
Wow.
So when the metaverse started taking off and all that stuff, we added questions around the metaverse and everything going on. So ultimately, I have zero worries about the future. That's why the slogan for Sightly has always been anticipate the unexpected. We feel good about that because we are looking at what's
Wow.
going on, right?
Yep.
And if I don't have a question, the technology shows there's no question connected to this situation.
Wow.
And now our team's going to say this happened a few times. This is a new thing, right? So, and then we alert our clients that there's new questions. So I don't know. I don't see anything different, no matter what topic is brought up. That's the
Man,
way to do it.
I'm blown away by all of this, man, and I'm hoping, like, one day I think I want you and I to kind of get
Let's,
together. I want to see how this works.
let's do it.
I really want to see how this works because I'm really fascinated by it, and like you said, it's built for everyone. And I'm thinking, like, there's probably going to be other industries that are going to come to you that have never tried this before. We do a lot in, like, let's just say personal injury attorneys. We do a lot for them, and it fascinates me what I see these guys doing now, because what they're doing right now, the car dealers did it 5, 10 years ago. And so now it's like it almost seems like what you guys are doing is ahead of its time. It's ahead of its time, and like whenever people come with a great idea or something that seems just so awesome, they either think you're insane or you're either insane or you're just way too early. One of those, and I think when brands really get a hold on it, I think the big brands that, like the Nikes of the world, they're looking for ways to be able to get more data, find out who their customer, because Nike knows who they are. They want to know who their customer is. They want to know, like, how to be around things or new ways to be able to market, not just advertise, but new ways to market and make an impression on people. So that's why I'm so fascinated by it, and I
Thank
have all those questions about it because it's just, um, just like seeing AI copywriting nowadays. I think people want to know, like, okay, what are the capabilities that I can do with this? What can I do with Sightly?
Yeah, I appreciate how intrigued you are. I appreciate you even wanted to talk to me. So thank you on both fronts.
No, thank you for being a great guest, man. Thank you.
And I know you wanted to cover the where it came from. So yeah, it's very simple. In January, I've told the story a lot, so you could find it everywhere. But in January 2020, when Kobe died, I don't know, it got to me. And I was, I get it. There's people who struggle to understand that he came from a bad place and rose up, but I appreciate people who can improve, people who can get better, people who can learn from their mistakes and also be very consistent, authentic along the way.
Yeah,
Right. I hope no one ever makes a mistake, but that's not life.
yeah,
And I was not a Kobe fan as a player just because he always beat everyone I wanted to see win. But, I'm one of those people that late in everyone's career, I start to appreciate them because they're not going to be around anymore. And I would say the last couple of years of Kobe's career, I started to appreciate him. And then what happened was he dies, and it was just tragic.
yeah,
don't want to compare it to 9/11, but I remember where I was when three things have happened, like vividly: Kobe, 9/11, and something else. I remember when Michael Jackson died for some reason where I was standing, and it wasn't that it was that big, but I just remember it. The other two were like Kobe, just like I thought it was fake at first. I was like, oh my God, like,
Yeah, because
and
there was a lot of that going around at the time.
and just the reaction, the worldwide reaction, the love for the guy, the appreciation. Then I dove into what was called the Mamba mentality, which was something that he embraced to change who he was. He stuck to it. And you hear it now with Nick players talk about it still. They practice on the road at high school gyms and just, I was just inspired by it. And I was inspired by how present he was for his girls in the world. And
Yeah.
I brought the idea back to the company. I'm like, I think I have an idea for what we already do. I was like, it wasn't like it was unique to me. It was more, we do this, we just don't have a name for it. And I Googled, does anyone own brand mentality? No. And I was like, let's go. I was like, everyone talks about brand suitability and safety, but what's missing in those things is who you are. And being able to understand that you can't get to those things without knowing your mentality. So we started to embrace this. People in the company believed in it. And, we had customers already that were interested in what we were talking about, and it all just evolved. But it comes from Kobe Bryant. So
Yeah. Wow.
if I could ever get to Vanessa or her, I haven't reached, but like I would love to talk to her just about how our company got inspired by her husband. So if I ever could get to her and just to have a convo, I would love to tell her that our company was inspired by her husband and daughter. So that would be a dream in this. So if anyone knows her, hit me up. But I would love to talk to her about it. So that's how it all came about.
Man, I love that and I respect that story, man. Where did the name Sightly come from?
So Sightly was originally created in about 8 to 10 years ago. I don't know the original name, so I can't give you the perfect story for that, but I don't have your answer, unfortunately, because I don't know the original name creation, but I do know that, the goal really within the name was to be seen, right? So, but a lot of people write us Slightly, and it gets me very frustrated. In the autocorrect, a lot of people Slightly, and I'm like, come on.
So what is on the horizon for Sightly? What are you guys working on? And also what's on the horizon for you, Adam?
So for Sightly, we're going to continue to try to drive the market to think about real-time marketing and intelligence. We believe that we have unbelievable data and unbelievable learnings that could help brands in ways that have nothing to do with paid media.
Wow.
So we think that we can help brands from a usage standpoint and also from a thought process to buy the platform to utilize it in so many different ways.
Wow.
Their influencer development, audience development, thought process around opportunity and risk. We think there's so many other ways to use the platform that people haven't even touched. So that's where my brain is heavily focused a lot on helping to uncover new streams of revenue, but also new ways to utilize the data and the analytics. So that's the big play for Sightly. In terms of myself, just keep learning, man. Talking to people, having more conversations. I have energy for days, as I think you could tell.
I like it. I like it. I like it, man. I like it.
Hopefully don't lose my energy would be the most important. But I spend pretty much every waking minute of my life with my daughter, who's 19 months. So I try to be the best dad I could be. That would be my answer to what's ahead for me, is to inspire, to be to my daughter what I had the best dad that ever walked this earth. So I always say this, I have zero negative thoughts about him in my whole soul. So I'd like to do the same. That's kind of my my hope is that I feel my daughter ends up feeling the way about me, the way I felt about my dad. That's what drives me every day.
That's awesome, man. I want to wrap us up with this last segment. If you watch the show, You've kind of seen us talk, a little bit about, the then and the now, because it definitely sounds like Sightly is definitely going to be the future and what's to come. And I want to talk about some mediums. I want to get your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer on these mediums. And once I ask you about them, you tell me about how relevant you think they are today. And you just give me. Let's try and keep our answers real brief here. The first medium I'll bring up to you is radio. Radio silence.
I would, yeah, it depends on now that I'm in the car more, I still appreciate it.
Okay. How about social media?
Needs to evolve.
Your favorite platform?
YouTube.
What do you think about broadcast television?
Love it.
OTT?
Love it.
Newspaper?
Love it.
Outdoor media? Billboards?
Hate it.
Google ads?
Love it.
Facebook ads?
Iffy on it.
Paid social media?
Appreciate it.
Awesome. I think that is where we're going to wrap things up, man. I just want to tell you, thank you so much, man. Adam, you are so awesome, man. I thank you for being a great guest, man. And if you could pick two mediums that would be your favorite, what would they be?
YouTube. I'm always on it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because I still am a TV person.
Uh-huh.
I understand why everyone's not. So if you're asking for me personally, TV and YouTube. I'm a little old school, but I could appreciate. I am one of those people that could appreciate why everyone else doesn't agree with that.
You got a little new school and old school there. That's all right, man. That's okay.
You're from Brooklyn, you have to have that.
So everyone, I want to make sure you thank our friend and our new friend to the AdCast, Mr. Adam Katz, for being an awesome guest today, and also thank Craft Creative, the video production company, for being our studio sponsor. And Adam, I hope we stay in touch, man. Let's make sure we connect on LinkedIn, Instagram, and all that other good stuff. And I want to thank our listeners for giving us their most valuable asset, which is their time. Adam, please go ahead and shout out the website address. Tell people exactly where to go, and give them a reason to actually come over and check out Sightly.
Well, definitely should go to sightly.com. Why? Right? I mean, in the end, I think, how could you not care about the future of marketing, and how could you not care about being authentic? So if those two things matter to you, come say what's up.
I like that. You said, come say what's up. If you feel this podcast has been a help to you or could be a help to others, please don't forget, subscribe, like, and also share. You can listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. That's going to be Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Google Music, Amazon. We're there too. So make sure you actually go on and check us out. We're also on YouTube, which is Adam's favorite network to watch too. You might see us there too. And so if you want to catch up on some past episodes, go to ericelliott.com. That's Eric, ERICELLIOTT.com. And this is the AdCast. Hey guys, I'm back. I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the AdCast. If you didn't, go online, give me a review, and tell me how you want us to make it better for you. And if you did, give us a 5-star rating anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. But I want to thank you for your most valuable asset. That's your time, and thank you for listening. Enjoy the AdCast, and stay tuned for another hot episode coming up soon.